Kirsten Fleming of the New York Post has been covering every day of the Penny trial. She was in the courtroom when the not guilty verdict was read. Kirsten, thanks for being back with us. Just take us into what it was like, what it's like inside the courtroom in those moments, and what you're hearing outside as well.
Well, it's interesting because this morning, by the way, thanks for having me on. But it's interesting because this morning I had filed, my column had talked about that one little thing I noted was that there wasn't that many protesters there anymore because they were really loud for the opening statements. But this morning it was really amped up, loud, agitated. And so the whole morning was really the lawyers fighting over the protests and the defense had asked for mistrial because of it. The jurors are able to hear it. There's bullhorns. This time there was actually some pro-Penny protesters, which I didn't hear. So that kind of set the scene, early. Like the first thing that we did this morning was listen to this back and forth about the protests and if it was affecting the jury or not. And the judge said to the defense that he wasn't going to grant the mistrial, but if he wanted him to speak to the jury, he can say, I want, but just a reminder to ignore whatever you're hearing from outside, because they were saying things like subway strangler, no justice, no peace, no, one of those types of things. And so it was pretty intense in the courtroom to begin with. So we set the stage with that. The protests kind of quiet down. And then we get a note about like half an hour later, and they have a verdict. And it was very quick. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, we opened up the show when they dismissed the higher verdict, that is the more severe punishment. I expected the best case scenario for Daniel Penny was a mistrial because the jury couldn't come to an agreement. Were you surprised that the jury came to an agreement to render him not guilty? What sort of reaction did that provoke in the courtroom? What did it run counter to maybe your expectations? And certainly it did mine, maybe other people in the courtroom as well.
Well, I think it was a shock because some people were saying we're going to expect a hung on this one as well. And, it resulted, everybody's talking about, there was still one issue that was the justification was the linchpin bolt. So people were not necessarily seeing that not guilty, especially pretty early in the morning. So when it came out, it's like this buildup, right? It's like a month and a half of sitting in that courtroom. And then all of a sudden they have a note and it's done like that. So no one really knew what was going to happen. It was really suspenseful. And when they said not guilty, there was cheers that broke out. The judge said to come to order. Jordan Neely's father, who has just filed a lawsuit against Daniel Penny last week before the verdict was even out, started yelling. And we don't know what he was saying, but he was escorted out. Hawk Newsom, who is the BLM representative in New York, he started saying, they got up and they were all jibber-jabbering, and he said something like small world buddy, like it sounded very threatening. And then his sister said, this is a racist effing country. And they were all escorted out. And then another woman, an older black woman who I'd never really seen before. She may have been there, but I really didn't recognize her. She started wailing like she was at, someone's casket. I mean, it was really, really intense and really dramatic. And they escorted all of them out.
What are they saying outside the courtroom? I've seen some audio from the kind of the mob or the protesters or whatever that have gathered out there. Some of the stuff that I've heard, Kirsten, is ominous, especially as somebody who has a lot of family and friends who still live in New York City.
Yeah, they had, the Neely party, which consists of some family members, his father's attorney, and some of the BLM people. They were holding a press conference outside. And, some of the stuff that I heard from Hawk Newsom is, he was talking about if they're going to let white vigilantism occur, we need to respond with black vigilantism, which was, obviously quite severe. So
we've got the audio for people out there. We're going to play that for you later in the show. Also, I mean, there's a lot of awful racist things being said by BLM New York. Do you get, to Buck's point, Kirsten, do you get the sense that that this is ominous and there's something more coming based on the vibe around the courthouse? I mean, it's early in the day. BLM is trying to call for some violence. What's your take on that? I know it's difficult to predict, but what do you have the sense of?
So this is the point of my column today. I really feel like in 2023 in May, when this story was first when this happened, this story was framed as this racist white vigilante chokes out a poor Michael Jackson impersonator. And, obviously our institutions are captured and everything sort of ensued from there. But I think the woke fever has really broken. And there's been there was probably the people who were outside screaming. It's the same people who have been at some of the anti-Israel stuff, and it was probably about like 15 people screaming at the police. So it didn't, I just feel like they've lost the sort of, there's an impotency there.
Yeah, I think that it could be different this time around. Kirsten, for the Kirsten Fleming from the New York Post, thank you for being with us. Thank you for covering this trial. I think it was really important that people had a sense all along of what was going on there, and your reporting on it was excellent. So thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.